Hey everyone, welcome to the 361st episode of the Internet of Things podcast. This is your host, Stacey Higginbotham, and your co-host,
Kevin Toffel.
And we have a lot to talk about today. We're going to be talking about, general smarts for robotics from a new company. We're going to be talking about telehealth options now through Amazon, Madam A. We've got an update on the Sigfox bankruptcy/receivership. We've got subscription news from Wise. We've got recall news from Fitbit. We've got an update on some new products, including new shades from Lutron, a new smart mosquito killer, a HomeKit door lock, and Kevin has tested a Wi-Fi mousetrap. You'll hear all about it. And we will also hear from our sponsor this week, Somfy. And our guest is Bob Marshall, who is the CEO of a company called Whisker Labs, which makes the Ting fire detection device. So we're going to talk about that and what it takes to sell smart products to insurance companies. So all of this and more await you. But first, let's get a message from another one of our sponsors. This week's sponsor is Panticore. Managing the growth of IoT applications and services is still a stretch for many whose development processes have changed little over the years. IoT devices need to be secure, they have to be up to date, and they continuously need to offer innovative functionality. Panticore allows developers to implement lightweight containers on embedded Linux. Woo! Create your product with any Linux distro and then use modern container technology to secure and rapidly deploy updates across your entire IoT fleet. You can learn more in Panticore's white paper, which can be found at panticore.com/Stacey on IoT. Go visit this if it's your jam, because these sponsors help keep us running. All right, Kevin.
Hey, before we hit the news that we have lined up, can I bring in some just happened news?
Oh my gosh, yes, what just happened?
So next week, March 8th at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, is an official Apple event that was just announced. While I know they're likely to show off their new M2 chip and the computers, I've also heard maybe some Apple Watch updates, and I would also love to hear some HomeKit updates.
Wouldn't we just? So
we would.
We would.
I would.
Well, we'll definitely talk about that next week. Or maybe we won't if there is nothing to talk about. So sad. But thank you, Kevin, for updating us. Thank you for checking Twitter while we're doing our show.
How did you know?
Because I'm doing the same thing. This is how fresh our show is for you. All right. So Kevin is super excited about this. There is a company that just announced on Wednesday that they raised $58.5 million in Series A funding, which is a crazy amount of Series A funding, to build general robotic intelligence. This company is called Sanctuary Cognitive Systems. They are based in Vancouver. They have founders that were part of D-Wave, which was a quantum computing startup, also in Canada, and Kindred, which built reinforcement learning for robots, and
Stacey's not impressed.
Yeah. So
tell us why.
The idea here is, I shouldn't even say idea. It's really a premise. The premise is if we want to solve huge problems like getting people into space, they mentioned climate change, all sorts of things, we're going to need human intelligence for robots. And these robots need to be general purpose robots. Right now, robots are built, they're super highly specific because robotics is still hard. It's easy to program something to do the same thing all the time, right? We've mastered that. The harder thing is to apply AI to physical awareness and then intelligence. So it's a really big, we'll call it a moonshot kind of deal. But I'm frustrated because the focus seems to be around space. And I really feel like if we're looking at space, we're not going to solve the problems we have at home, and we have lots of problems at home.
So I don't disagree with what you just said about, solving problems at home versus problems that aren't really problems just yet that we need to solve. But What I like about this is, and I'll be honest, I agree with you, the press release was a bit over the top, and that's where Stacy read this, and she's like, no. And I get it. I do. But when I think about how we need to push forward as a civilization, whether it's space, whether it's climate change, whatever, most of the challenges that have yet to be overcome are due to inhospitable places and locations for humans. Why not have a robot that could do the spacewalks and maintain the ISS or whatever it might be, or start building colony infrastructure on Mars or the moon or whatever? Why not have those same robots go down deep under the sea to deal with
carbon caching or something?
Yeah, right. Where the pressure would crush a human, and you're so focused on just getting the human there that you spend all your time doing that, and you can't even really focus on solving the problem that it's meant to solve. So I like that, and in tandem with this idea from Sanctuary that these robots aren't just like program and deploy. They can, in theory, they should be, will be, etc. But they also talk about having humans actually remote control them. And I think about the whole telepresence aspect with telepresence robots, especially now that we're all remote. They never took off because, again, they're very specialized, just like you had said. Why not, have telepresence type robots that I could be in the space shuttle, or I can be in my comfy chair and I can fix something outside the space shuttle or the ISS or whatever it might be by using this robot remotely. So that's where I'm excited. I mean, I'd like to see that be addressed.
And we have that. So actually, probably like 3 or 4 years ago, I wrote a story for IEEE, and it was all about basically behind that robot is actually a person. And the idea is there are ferries right now that are automated in Scandinavia. And there is a pilot who actually he's not at home, but he's in an operations center. And he's managing the piloting of these ferries when the need happens. And again, you see that in connected driverless trucks. That's actually something that is tested. We had a guest on the show a couple of years ago talking about that. There was a laundry folding robot in Korea, and it actually was just the mechanism. And when you wanted it to fold laundry, a person would actually man and operate the robot, which is kind of silly. But so this is a common theme in robotics, which is if you need a highly specialized task, it's hard to have general purpose intelligence. So you just stick a person behind there, just to monitor it or to take over if a situation becomes too much for the AI to handle.
Or maybe that person's actions with the remote controls eventually become the learning model for the AI. So eventually the robot can do these things on its own.
Yes. So in Sanctuary writes in their blog posts that their robots are going to be similar to a person in size and shape because the world is designed for people. We can talk, that's a whole debate in the robotics industry, but sure. And then their cognitive architecture is designed to mimic the different subsystems in a person's brain. So you might have the visual cortex, you might have, spatial recognition. And the idea there is you can program those different parts. I think it's a reach because we haven't actually mapped all portions of the brain yet. So we don't actually know exactly how all this works. But, we do have to divide these projects up, or the programmability up in some way. So sure, dividing up based on our understanding of how the brain works seems like a decent way to attack that, I guess. Anyhow, so that's this company. We're talking about it because Kevin likes robots, because it's a lot of money, and because it is worth talking about these big, audacious goals. So go Sanctuary. And speaking of robots, or maybe just digital assistants, while we wait for Sanctuary to come out with robots that look like people and have general intelligence, we might have to rely on Amazon's Madam A for things like taking care of our elders. Amazon this week said that customers can connect with healthcare providers, such as those offered through Teladoc, through their Echo devices. And this is a really interesting option, I think, because I've experienced Teladoc. It's a pretty cumbersome sign in, making the appointment. All of that is like because of a lot of reasons, including the fact that you can't just talk to a doctor if their doctor's not in your state, for example. You have to be licensed in a particular area. But customers can now say to Madame A, I want to talk to a doctor. And they get a call back on their Echo device from a teledoc doctor. And it's only for non-emergency visits like allergies or flu symptoms. They're audio-only visits.
I get it. I mean, we have the CVS Minute clinics, where you can just kind of pop in. But if you are not mobile, you don't have a car, why not? I can't speak to the teledoc service because I've never tried it, but.
Well, if you want to try it, it's $75 for users without insurance. So anybody can use this. And if you have insurance that covers teledoc, it can be whatever your insurance provider has negotiated. I think this is really cool because one of the first use cases I thought of for like a smart speaker was actually my child was so much younger when these came out. And most parents have probably had the is this cough something to really worry about? Like, is it whooping cough or is it, just a cough? And something like this could be really valuable for that. Just cough into the Echo, my dear. And then the nurse can say, yeah, bring them in. That'd be worth $75 to me.
I don't know if they offer this. If they don't, I hope in the future they do. The ability to share any of your health tracking device metrics with the doctor. Like I can export PDFs of my EKG and all the other fun stuff.
What if it's only for your Halo stuff? Your Amazon Halo tracker? Oh.
Then I'll never use it. That's what that happens. Yeah.
I'm like, I could see that happening. All right. So,
yeah.
I mean,
for a certain population, I think this is a good thing.
Yeah, in a certain
I don't think everybody's just going to say, I'm not going to the doctor anymore. I'm just going to ask Madame A.
No, I just don't know how useful it is. And I'm curious, I would like to talk to doctors on this front because there's a lot of information you get visually that you might not understand audibly. You know what I'm saying?
Agreed.
So usually when in doubt, the doctor is always like, I need you to come in. Right. So that's where I'm like, oh, is this really going to be that useful? Maybe not. So plus a lot of healthcare insurers actually offer you the ability to call like a nurse line and ask the same sort of questions.
Right.
But there if you've got the insurance, it's free. Again, I don't know if this is convenient, but it seems like I don't know how valuable it will be. But
and they do say video visits are quote unquote coming soon.
Yes, we'll wait and see.
So you'll need like an Echo Show or something, and that handles the visual aspect that's missing.
Yeah. Let's talk about Sigfox because there's an update. February 25th, all of the bids were due.
Did we win the bid?
We did not win. Our bid did not go through, which means Kevin and I are not going to be operating a low-power wide area network anytime soon.
Darn.
Bummer. But 9 companies did enter bids, and this reporting, I should note, is from James Blackman over at Enterprise IoT Insights, because he's just on it. The bidders included Unibiz, which had talked to him prior to that, Heliot Group, iWire, Actility, which is a network provider, a LoRaWAN network provider, which is worth noting, and a French IoT provider called Groupe Zecat has entered a bid as well. And none of these Sigfox operators or consortium groups using Sigfox technology actually put in a bid. And neither did Semtech, which is the owner of LoRa technology and radios. So
it's interesting that the company being Sigfox, has frozen their debts, stating that the opening of the procedure allows the freezing of the company's previous debts. It means for the bidders, they won't have to cover this debt.
Oh, well, that's pretty common with any sort of restructuring bankruptcy. You usually negotiate away as much of your debt as possible and try for a home. It's actually kind of handy when you're trying to build out whole new expensive infrastructure, because then you wipe away all that debt and then you've got this actual physical infrastructure in place. A great example is Akamai from way back in the day. It built its CDN network on the backs of bankruptcy, which, these are assets. Anyway, so there were 9 bidders and we basically wait and see who they choose. The management team at Sigfox is going to talk to the takeover candidates to figure out what works best. Just as a note, there were some LoRaWAN network providers in here. Sigfox does not use LoRa technology in its low-power wide area network. It's a proprietary technology that would have to be updated to work with LoRaWAN. Okay, so that's what's up with Sigfox for everybody who's eagerly awaiting the end of this saga. And there's no update on when we'll actually get another update. All right. If you are using Wyze gear and you have been considering their home monitoring, get on that because in
Do it now.
April 6th, they're increasing the price of their professional monitoring from $4.99 a month to $9.99 a month. And existing subscribers get to stay locked in at that $5 a month price.
I hope they don't change that in the future, like a year out, say, well, now everybody's going to pay.
Well, I don't know. I mean, a year out, that seems reasonable. Service prices do rise. I mean, they don't usually rise by 100%, but you know.
Mm-hmm. I mean, $1 a year increase or whatever, $1 a month increase over 5 years to bring it to the $10 price would be nice.
Okay, well, that's what you want. We'll see what happens.
That's 20%. Hey, 20% is pretty darn good.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. So they are trying to sweeten this a little bit. So if you have a $10 a month subscription, you get a Cam Plus license, and you can apply that to any camera, and that gives you cloud-based event recordings, unlimited cloud event recordings, and some AI detection features. And all your cameras will get person detection, which is nice if you've got pets or tree branches that float in front of your cameras.
That is nice. I still think that one of the appeals of Wyze, aside from their low cost, was the fact that they were one of the few that really relied more on local stored data for privacy purposes. People really like that. So,
I mean, if you're doing professional monitoring, there's going to have to be a cloud element regardless. So if that's important to you. But yes,
agreed.
They've had a bumpy road with local AI simply because Apple bought the company that provided their local AI. So they had to redo it. You also get professional monitoring for their leak and climate sensors. And it includes their $10 a year Sprinkler Plus subscription. Basically, Wyze is just like, subscribe. Mm-hmm. That's what you should take away from this. And the reason they need to do this, and they said this when they raised their funding late last year, it's because the VCs want to see recurring revenue. Boom.
Yeah, they won't be able to raise more funds if needed if they don't have that cash flow coming in.
Ring, their professional monitoring is actually about $20 a month. SimpliSafe is $18 a month, but you have to pay extra for camera storage. So Wyze is still looking competitive if you just want that kind of local option. Abode charges $20 a month, roughly, for their professional monitoring, although that does include cellular backup. Wyze's does not. So basically, there's a lot of options. Wyze is still pretty cheap if you want to kind of DIY everything and you don't really care about backup. If you do care about backup, you're going to pay more. So there you go. Security is like the moneymaker for the IoT. It has been for a while. That's why everybody's in on it. That's bad news on the price front. Let's talk about bad news on the, oh my gosh, my wrist is burning front.
I have to say it. We're going to talk about this product that has been recalled due to 174 reported fires. It is the Fitbit Ionic from maybe between 2017 and 2020, I believe. I have to say it. One of the colors is slate blue and burnt orange.
Ouch. And isn't it ironic? No, it's iconic. It is the Fitbit Iconic. And
no, it is the Ionic. It's not ironic. It's not iconic. It is Ionic.
Oh, no.
Maybe that's why they have problems.
So, if you have the Ionic Fitbit.
This was their very like smartwatchy one that looked like a squared off Apple Watch to some degree. Not nearly as modern, but...
Yeah, it's been replaced by, I believe, the Versa. But I don't have either of these devices.
Or maybe it's the Varsa.
Okay, yes.
Versa.
This is terrible. So this is bad news for Google or Alphabet, which owns Fitbit, because they actually, if you have this watch, you just send them a note and you say, hey, I have this watch. And then they will send you a self-addressed stamped package envelope.
Fireproof.
Yeah, the USPS is not as excited about transporting these. No. They'll send you that. You drop it in the mail. They'll give you a full refund on the $299 purchase price, and you will get 40% off any new Fitbit products should you try to take the risk.
From the non-flammable line.
Yes. So, yeah, this is going to be expensive. It's also going to be bad in terms of branding.
They sold 1 million of these in the US. That's 1 million wrists.
There you go. And 1.7 million internationally.
700,000 internationally, so 1.7 million total.
Yes, I think of internationally as inclusive of the U.S. It's the whole world, Kevin.
This is true. Kevin doesn't get out much. My whole world is this room.
There you go. Yeah, and we'll get to that, actually. So,
and my basement.
I was going to say, and your basement, but we'll stay tuned for Kevin's basement stories. All right. We've got product news. Lutron. They now have new smart shades, and boy, these are fancy. They've basically updated their Serena Smart Shade lineup with nicer honeycomb smart shades. They're larger. They go up to 96 inches wide, which is actually pretty competitive with Somfy type shades. By the way, Somfy is a sponsor. Historically, the size of your shades really dictated your options here, because only like a lot of the smarter and battery powered shades only could lift a certain width. And they topped out at usually like 60, maybe 80 inches wide. So anything beyond that was too bad for you. So this is good. These now have blackout options. They have over 40 fabric options. And they sent me some fabric swatches. And as a person who has purchased smart shades multiple times in the past, they're nice. They're actually pretty nice. They're not as wide ranging as some of the things out there. So if you are super decor conscious, you might not choose this, but they have a wide range of neutrals, and in blackout, in light filtering, and in 4 different types of fabric. And the design of these is very nice. It's very modern. They take normal batteries or rechargeable batteries. Depending on the size of your window, you might have D batteries, or you might go all the way down to like AA's. So these are good, and they work with Lutron, which if you've got the
works with everything.
Yeah, if you've got the Lutron hub, it works with everything. So,
and to be honest, when we started putting shades up in this home, which we've owned for about 5 years now, we went with manual honeycomb shades because we prefer honeycomb shades. So this would sound appealing to me, except for the Eve Motion roller blinds that I recently tried, which, I mean...
You're okay with the roller blind and not the honeycomb.
Exactly. If you're okay with roller blind and the fact that you don't need batteries because it's a built-in rechargeable batteries that you just plug in with a USB-C to recharge the Eves, and you get thread, they're much cheaper. The Serena honeycomb blinds, $600 for a 3-foot by 5-foot shade. I priced out the Eves at 5 feet by 5 feet, and they were $350 each after I bought 3 of them.
Yeah, but that's a roller shade. So I was...
Oh, here we go, shade snob.
No, well, you just said that you wanted honeycomb when you went and did this. So
I don't want honeycomb for that much.
Okay, well, so the question is, would you choose honeycomb, or would you choose I'm just going to say, a less fancy shade that's smart?
I will go with less fancy and smart. And I think my wife would too. Like, even
I was about to say, what would your wife say?
Yeah, it doesn't matter what I say in this particular case. Actually, most of the time, it doesn't matter what I say. But she liked the Eves. Yes, we both prefer the honeycomb. But they had blackout roller blinds as an option, light filtering as an option. She liked them.
Okay. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, looking at these fabric swatches, I'm showing Kevin.
She's showing me honeycomb blind swatches, and I'm looking at my office window, and I've got honeycomb blinds right there. Yeah, they look great.
They're beautiful. The fabrics are nice. Okay, well, I'm fabric snobby, and in my house, roller shades are not going to cut it. I mean, in most parts of my house. Anyhow, if you are in the market for this, or you're like, ooh, I want to smartify my shades, and I have some money to burn, this might be a really nice option for you. So the other option in the market is the trod-free future blinds that people talk a lot about. And those are cheaper They come in roller shades, not honeycomb. And I really see what Lutron's doing here is competing against the higher quality shades and designer shades like from a company like Somfy, which technically does not make the shades. They just make the motors that work with the shades. But that's where I think the competition is. So, and I'll just confess right now, I have Somfy shades, but they're not smart because their smart stuff is expensive and it requires a proprietary thing. They haven't invoked the Wi-Fi and that kind of option. Although Lutron is also proprietary, but they have that nice hub that works with so many things.
Yep.
All right. Hey, it's almost summer. I know it's just March, but in Texas, where I was last week, it was 90 degrees one day. So that's almost summer. And if you are planning to spend a lot of time outside, you might be concerned about mosquitoes. And there is a new smart mosquito repelling system that connects to your digital assistants and basically creates a zone of no mosquitoes. This is from Thermacell. It is expensive. $700 for a 3 repeller kit plus the hub that you need to control it.
That gives you almost 1,000 square feet of protection. And to be fair, Thermacell's been in the business for about 20 years, and their products actually are highly rated for mosquito repellent. We
actually used to have a Thermacell system in one of our homes, we had it for outside, and it did work. I don't recall it lasting very long. Anyway. I
was just going to say, I'm looking at the manual ones that they sell. Like, here's a 2-pack that does a 15-foot zone, and it's good for about 12 hours of protection. And basically you buy refills of whatever they have their repellent is stored in, and that they heat up and so on. So once the repellent is used up, you got to put in these refills, kind of like a Keurig in a sense. You can get a 2-pack though for $42, and it's only a 15-foot zone, but that's a big jump in price when you go smart.
Yeah. But if you want the ability to say, I don't know, Madam A, turn on the mosquito system, this will do that. It says the cartridges for the smart system, each cartridge will last 40 hours and refills cost $120 for a 6-pack.
Yowza.
Well, it's a 6-pack, so that's $20. That's $40 for a 2-pack.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
You're like, yeah.
I'll go to IKEA's kitchen center and get that $1.74 fly swatter that's got a funky name.
So I will say 2 things about this. 1, great. This is a great option if you have a lot of money and you would like to do this. 2, any mosquito protection you should do is probably a layered mosquito protection. I mean, we used to buy mosquito bombs to set off a couple hours before having parties sometimes, but really you need to use like dunks and a regular application of, they even have like garlic applications that you can do that are earth friendly. Having lived in the South, would not trust my entire mosquito protectant system to this. So, okay. Moving right along, let's talk about a new HomeKit compatible device and HomeKey compatible. So first off, Kevin, why don't you tell us about Apple's HomeKey and remind us what that is?
Oh, that is where in your Apple Wallet, where you store all your credit and debit cards and online accounts for quick access for mobile payments, you can store keys, digital keys for compatible smart locks. So you just tap your iPhone to the smart lock that's supported and it unlocks the door.
Ta-da! So if you want to use Apple Key, now Aquara, which we talk about a lot, they have a new smart door lock that uses Zigbee. And it's going to work with HomeKit and the Home Keys, which is pretty cool.
It is. It's rather large, though. For one thing, it has a touchpad for numeric pins to get in, and I wouldn't buy a smart lock without that personally, especially because not everybody uses an iPhone, so they may not have Home Key support. So that's good. It looks like the size of an iPhone above the lock, though, and then down below, it has an equal amount of material there. So it's like stack an iPhone above and below your door handle. That's how big this thing is.
It is large. But I will also say it works with Google Assistant. And if you're really excited about it, you're going to have to wait because it's not going to be available in the US for a while.
Right. Asian companies first, and then eventually will make its way around the planet. You will need the Aquara Zigbee 3.0 hub as well.
That's a really good hub.
Yeah.
People love it.
Yeah.
So,
That's fair.
It's worth it. Maybe I'll send you one.
Oh, please don't. I'm running out of outlets in my house.
Oh, outlets. Gosh, so many things you've got to plug in.
My electrical panel is filled up. I just added 240 volts for electric car charging. I've got no spots left. And yeah, I just have all my outlets are in use.
You're out of electricity. That means you need to get a smart breaker manager. And boom,
you can
smart
send me
breaker
that.
box. Yeah, that's $5,000 plus install. I'll get right on that, my friend.
You just did buy something for me. Although I haven't submitted the expense report.
I was about to say, did I? Tell me more about what I bought.
Surprise! You owe me $39.95 actually, because
I hope it was for something good.
It is. It is for the Victor Smart Kill electronic mousetrap. Oh yeah.
I'm paying for you to kill mice.
I mean, I know. Listen, a lot of people, my daughter, for example, that's terrible. You don't kill the mice. I'm like, well, they're leaving presents all over the floor in the basement. Your mom is not happy. I would rather have something that's more humane in killing them than a, spring-loaded mechanical mousetrap, because sometimes they get caught in the spring and don't die immediately, and that's not right. So Victor has solved the problem with zapping them electronically. That's what this does. This is a 2-piece mousetrap. It doesn't look like a mousetrap at all. One piece of the trap is the chute for the mouse to walk in. And I say chute because there are pieces of plastic inside it to guide the mouse down to the 2 metal contact pads near the bait. It makes it harder for the mouse to back out when they realize they're about to get the electric chair. But then when they touch both plates, they get zapped and get killed 100% of the time, according to Victor.
And you'll know this because
the other piece of the trap has smarts. That's where you put your 4 AA batteries, and that's where the Wi-Fi radio is, and the safety switch, which I've already circumvented to test it, because we wanted to know how many millivolts does it take to kill a mouse, and Victor thinks it's about 135 based on my multimeter. Yes, I tested it. Don't do that.
Don't stick your finger in there, people.
No. So you get an app for either iOS or Android. I use iOS. If you can set up an Echo Dot, you can set this up on your network. It's 2.4 gigahertz only. I will note that up front. You basically connect to the mousetrap over Wi-Fi, like a peer-to-peer network. And then in the app says, hey, these are all the wireless hotspots I see. Which one is yours? You pick yours, you put in the password, and the mousetrap then connects to your Wi-Fi network. The reason it does that is because you get this handy dandy little game-like application where it will tell you how many kills you have, just like a video game. I have 0 kills so far, but I haven't had it that long. And I did read reviews, and people have said this thing's killed 4 mice in a day for me, and I got all the notifications, etc. So I'm not worried that it's not going to work. I know it shocks things when you touch the plates, because I did that with a wire and measured it. So, I don't have any.
So stay tuned for an update on dead mice.
Maybe I can hook it up to my Twitter account and say, Kevin just caught a mouse. Actually, you can't. That's one of the interesting things. This is a connected device, but in a very limited way. You can't connect it to any smart home platform. You can't have Alexa shout out, got one. You can't have a, happy tune play on your smart speakers, like We Will Rock You from Queen, each time it gets a mouse. I mean, I tried, I looked, it can't be done. So Stacey's shaking her head.
I'm really just appalled at the idea of playing Another One Bites the Dust. But you go, Kevin.
For $40, it's not cheap as far as mousetraps go.
That's true. But if it's humane and if it works, we'll let you know what Kevin's kill rate is. Okay. In less murdery news, it's time for the Internet of Things Podcast Hotline. This is the segment of the show where we take questions from our audience and we try to answer them. The IoT Podcast Hotline is sponsored by the LoRaWAN World Expo. This is this year's can't miss IoT event. It's taking place July 6th and 7th in Paris, and it's the only official LoRaWAN event and is going to bring together the entire ecosystem to show why LoRaWAN is the only LP WAN that is scaling massively. You can visit LoRa-Alliance.org to learn more about the expo and how to register. I actually will be there giving a keynote, and literally everyone I've talked to in the LP WAN industry has been like, hey, are you going? And I'm like, yes, I am. So we'll all be there. Okay. If you have a question for us, give us a call at 512-623-7424, and you will be entered to win a prize. It is a brand new month. It is March, and our March prize will be an Encode door lock from Schlage. Woo, Wi-Fi door locks. So yay for that. And let's take a moment to pick our winner from February who is going to win a Firewalla device. Who is it, Kevin?
It is Merlin from Austin.
Whoop, whoop, Austin. Go, Merlin. All right. We will be contacting you and sending you the information to get you your Firewalla. And this week, our question actually comes from Aaron. Let's hear it.
Hi, Stacey and Kevin. My name is Aaron. I had a question. What are the most reliable smart bulbs or outlets that are out there currently? I have several mixtures of bulbs and fixtures throughout my house, and some seem to disconnect fairly often. It's wildly frustrating. My family doesn't like them. So for reliability, what do you recommend? My other question is, I have been thinking about getting into HomeKit now that we're an Apple household. Is there a good starter device? I don't need the cheapest, but like a nice, reliable HomeKit device to start using HomeKit in your house. Thank you. Have a great day.
Okay, Aaron. Everybody knows what I'm about to say. Ditch the bulbs. Go to switches. For your lamps, use lamp modules all from, everybody say it with me now, Lutron.
I knew it.
That's right. Yeah. I even convinced Kevin.
But I actually agree. And up until we've been doing this podcast since, I don't know, 2013, 14?
Yeah, 2013.
Okay. And it's not until 2021 that I would have agreed with you on this, because I did not have any Lutron gear after hearing about how wonderful it was for 8 years from Stacey.
I wore him down.
And she was right. She was right. They are the most rock solid lighting system I have ever used. And they work with every platform. I'm using them with HomeKit, but I agree.
You have to buy a hub.
But you have to buy a hub. I will sacrifice an outlet, one of my precious outlets, for that hub. In fact, I do.
So if you don't want to have an electrician or do the wiring yourself to replace switches, which I know a lot of people don't, the most reliable smart bulbs I have found have been the Philips Hue. Now, second to that, I would say the most reliable smart bulbs I found have been the IKEA Trod-free bulbs that are cheap. So I would say those are your options for the most reliable. I have had some glitches with my Philips Hue bulbs and the motion detection in this house, and I have no idea what's happening. Maybe it's a mouse.
It's a mouse.
I've got to buy that Victor trap. It comes in LoRaWAN. Maybe I'll try that. So I don't know if you should add the accessories, but other than that, they're amazing. They have local control now, so your bulbs and gear will work even when your internet's out. Obviously not if your power's out.
They're less expensive. They're much easier to install.
They're much easier to install. I guess the white-only bulbs are less expensive. But then you got to deal with, like, someone turned off your switch and there goes your bulbs. I just really think if you want the ease of smart lighting in your home, just make the one-time investment in having, it's like most electricians charge like $20 to $25 a switch to install these things. And that they also have a fee to come visit you, but it's not crazy.
And honestly, if you can change a regular switch, you can change into a smart switch. The process is really not different at all.
Yes. An electrician is going to do it much faster, but if you want to do it, it's a good project. So that's on that front. Your other question was about the most reliable HomeKit devices. And since Kevin is our HomeKit guru, I turn to him.
So this is a really difficult question to answer. And the reason is, after using HomeKit almost exclusively for the past 12 months or so, I can't tell you because they're all reliable. I've had so few, I'd say almost no issues with HomeKit devices in the past year as compared to devices that run on Google's platform, Amazon's, Samsung's. I'm not saying those are bad platforms. I'm not saying the products that are on those are bad either. I'm just saying I have not experienced nearly as many issues with HomeKit. It's all local. All of the HomeKit devices work locally. You can access them remotely if you have a HomeKit hub, which would be a plugged-in iPad or an Apple TV. Literally, I mean, short of the occasional glitch, which is usually easy to resolve, like my Miro smart garage door opener that's HomeKit compatible, it lost the Wi-Fi signal one time. I had to go up on the ladder, press a button, and set it up again, basically set up the network again. Short of that, it's all instant, it's all fast, it's all reliable.
That's a pretty good recommendation.
I can only tell you what I've experienced. You know, I'm sure there were people out there that are saying, well, I had problems with this HomeKit device. I'm sure you did. I don't doubt it. I can only tell you from my perspective, it's just been far more rock solid than any other brand or ecosystem.
So if you have the Lutron hub, it also works with HomeKit. So rush to go purchase that, my friend. I would say if you're just looking for devices, like you want to smartify your home, lights are always a great place to start. I always recommend doing a connected garage door opener if that's like, especially if you're kind of worried about leaving your garage door open. It's a nice thing to do.
Video doorbell is nice.
I think a video doorbell, I don't really care for having one, but a lot of people do. So the video doorbell, Logitech makes a great video doorbell for HomeKit. Circle View, I believe is what
that's the one I ended up settling on. And part of the reason I like all of the HomeKit video doorbells in general is because Apple secures the video. You're not going to see it anywhere else. Nobody's going to have access to it, etc. You may have to pay, like, I think I pay $3 a month for 200 gig of storage on iCloud to help support that, but you don't have to. You used to have to, but now you don't. You can just use the free version of iCloud with limited storage.
Got it. Okay. And then from there, pick your use cases. I mean, it's really use case dependent. Your smart home should evolve around you. Okay. Well, thank you very much for that question. And remember, if you would like us to answer your questions, give us a call at 512-623-7424, and you will be entered to win the Schlage Encode door lock for the month of March. Yay! All right, that concludes this segment of the show. Please stay tuned for our guest, Bob Marshall, who is the CEO of Whisker Labs. We're going to be talking about the Ting fire detection device. But first, let's hear from our sponsor. This week's sponsor is Somfy. Hey everyone, we are taking a quick break from the Internet of Things podcast for a message from our sponsor. This week's sponsor is Somfy, which is a maker of motors and controls for blinds and shades. And I have David Parrott here from Somfy to talk to us. So David, why should our listeners know about Somfy?
Because we're more than just another motor manufacturer. For the past 50 years, we've demonstrated that we care about people and the planet. Somfy creates products intended to improve people's lives, to make them more comfortable and enhance convenience. Our products help to create more efficient buildings while contributing to the well-being of the people who live and work in those buildings.
Okay, so how do Somfy products make people's lives more convenient?
You know, Stacy, life these days is all about convenience. Doing more with less, making life easier, and getting things done faster. That's why Somfy is constantly evolving to make our products not only quieter and more efficient, but also increasingly connected. The smart home needs to feature smart shading, so we are always building on our list of integration. It doesn't matter whether you're using Amazon Alexa or Google Home, or more sophisticated smart home systems like Crestron and Control 4. Your Somfy motorized blinds and shades work with all of them. That means using just one system and one way to control all your smart home products, unless, of course, you prefer to use multiple control systems. That's the best part. It truly is up to the homeowner to create the smart home that works best for their lifestyle.
Nice. So what else sets Somfy apart?
There's two things I wanted to bring up. The first is that Somfy brings indoor and outdoor motorization together. Besides blinds, shades, and drapes, we also motorize rolling shutters, exterior screens, pergolas, and awnings. In fact, we provide the most comprehensive range of motors and controls to motorize interior and exterior solar control products. And that's one big reason why so many of the OEMs choose Somfy. Secondarily, we also have a vast dealer network across the United States and Canada. Our dealers can offer customers a multitude of options to fit their lifestyle and decor needs, including variety in application, colors, styles, fabric, quietness, power options, and more.
That's true. I actually have Somfy blinds. So what's the next step for a listener interested in Somfy motorized products?
A good next step is to visit our website at www.somfysystems.com/IoT to learn more and connect with a dealer in your area.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Internet of Things podcast. This is your host, Stacey Higginbotham, and today's guest this week is Bob Marshall, who is the co-founder and CEO at Whisker Labs. Hello, Bob. How are you today?
Great, Stacey. It's great to be here.
And I am really excited. We met before I even was covering the IoT, so like over a decade ago. And I currently have a Ting, which is the product that we're going to talk about that y'all make in my house. So let's get this started by just telling everybody your history with, we'll call it the IoT, but it's really just sensors and data.
It is, yeah. I'd like to say that I was involved in IoT before people actually called it IoT. The prior company that we co-founded back in the 90s was a company called Earth Networks. And Earth Networks, what we did there, our core competency was connecting weather and climate sensors to the internet. So we did it as soon as the internet basically came to exist. And we connected thousands and thousands of sensors across the world to monitor weather and climate. And one of those sensor networks was a lightning detection network, a global lightning detection network. So we had sensors that sensed the atmosphere for sparks in the sky. And then we collected that data all in the cloud. And then we would send out that information to customers, that really needed it, like NASA and NOAA and the pro sports leagues and Walt Disney and other big customers that needed to know if there was lightning that could endanger their customers and partners.
Yeah, like the lifeguards at my swimming pool. No, they were not subscribers.
I know. Very familiar with those as well. Yeah, they should be.
So that was the beginning of your work in the IoT. And then Whisker Labs, how did that come about? And that also, you've actually spun off a portion of that business. So let's talk about it from its inception and then what happened and where we are now.
Yeah, so it's a little bit of serendipity. At Earth Networks, obviously we talked about the lightning detection network, but unfortunately my sister-in-law's house experienced a devastating fire several years ago, and that was an electrical fire. They lost a pet and lost everything in the home. Fortunately, none of the family died, but it was a terrible event, and I really knew nothing about electrical fires at that time, but studied them a little bit. And it turns out that they mostly all start from loose connections or damaged wires inside of walls, inside of devices. And there's little tiny arcs, think sparks, that happen that, typically the homeowner's not aware of it, and they can start horrible fires. They can happen when you're away. They can happen at night when you're asleep. And, I said, why can't we leverage the expertise that we have in the company and create a product that would help prevent these fires? And so we did a skunkworks project inside of Earth Networks for a couple of years. We had our best engineers working on it, and I was working on it, and it just looked impossible, like on the wrong side of the impossible line. And then we finally had a breakthrough in 2017 or so, and we figured out that we could find this tiny little signal in the noise. And, and then Ting was born.
Now, Ting is an outlet, it's a plug. You plug it into an outlet, and I have one I get every week or so. I get a report that's like, hey, you had this many brownouts, you had no power outages, you had no sparks, which is great. And I think the cost is like $99 a year for that service. And
Right.
then the hardware also has a cost, yes?
It does, yeah. Up front, there's when you first buy Ting, if you buy it retail online, it's $349. That includes the first year of service.
Okay. So that's the product. But you also had like an energy management business at some point that y'all sold to Resideo, which used to be Honeywell's.
Yeah, that's what we did, and that's ends up being somewhat unrelated to Ting as it exists today. But we were in and around the connected home, and trying to leverage our expertise in data and whether it was leveraging connected thermostats or energy sensors. We tried to produce an energy sensor that would monitor the energy in your home. But if it's not DIY and not simple, then it simply is not something that's going to scale for consumers. And I think that's, so we made a tough decision to kind of put that product to bed. It just wasn't going to be DIY. It couldn't scale. But Ting is just a plug, and that scales.
And I've had energy monitoring systems professionally installed on my breaker box. And it seemed like such a good idea in like 2015 or so. And I realized once I put it in there was only so much I could do with that information. I mean, once you've swapped out all your lights for LEDs and you're keeping your thermostat either too cold or too hot temperature, then basically you're like, well, and this is all I can do. And that information just becomes like something to bludgeon yourself over the head with,
Yeah, I think that's right. Obviously, we tried to produce an energy sensor that was DIY, so it didn't have to be professionally installed. So I've always thought generally energy information is good, but I think what you said is right. In the end, unfortunately, there's not a super compelling long-term value proposition for the consumer either, right? It's kind of neat when you get it,
Yeah.
but then what really compels you to stay interested in that? And I think that's one of the things that we've figured out with Ting is that obviously one thing that people do care about is their safety and security. And that never goes away. I mean, it is a compelling value proposition to protect customers' homes, their families, and prevent fires. And it's super rewarding. Literally, I think it's almost on the order of 10 homes a day we're saving now across the country.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's literally it's been over 1,000 homes that we've saved. These are things where Ting has detected, loose connections, faulty wiring, damaged devices that could have started a devastating fire, like what happened at my sister-in-law's house. And we've been able to isolate it, find it, mitigate it, and confirm exactly what we thought and prevent the fire.
So that's awesome. And like, is it 1 out of every 100 homes that might experience this? Because it is kind of a faraway risk. You're sort of aware of it, but you're like, how often does that happen?
And you almost nailed it. I don't know if you studied it or not, but it is roughly one. Yeah, it is. Nearly actually about one in. It is a relatively low frequency event. In actual full-fledged devastating electrical fire, it's about 1 in 2,000 homes. But we are identifying clear electrical faults in about 1 in 100 homes. And that's not only problems inside the home with, arcing and sparking going on inside the home, but, when we have a network of Ting sensors in communities, we are shockingly, and this was not expected, finding that utilities are sending dangerous power into 1% of homes. This is not inside the home. This is the utility that you rely on every single day for reliable and safe power for everything that is plugged in your home. 1% of homes, it's slightly less than that, but nearly 1% have dangerous power going into them.
What is dangerous power?
That means you're getting high voltage, low voltage. Yeah. I mean, it is, voltage in the United States is 120 volts. It should be 120 volts plus or minus a few, but when the utility's pumping, they have a loose connection out at the transformer, either, on the pole or in the green box outside your house. If there's a problem in there and it's pumping in 140 or 150 or 160 volts, that's no good. I mean, that damages and destroys devices in the home. It can start a fire. And then, even worse in the western states, like, we've seen, unfortunately, with California, the wildfires, a number of those things are started by utility grid faults. So, and this is information that the utilities just don't have. You would think they would, to be honest with you, right? I mean, they've invested, but we know the grid infrastructure is not where it needs to be. And the utilities are just not aware of the fact that they have these faults that are sending dangerous power into homes and communities.
Yeah. Well, I will say that my Ting does, when I saw it, I was like, this is kind of silly. And then I plugged it in and I felt much better. And I would say I live in an old home, but even when I lived in a new home, I would have liked this because I do a lot of my own wiring. And y'all know that I'm like, you can wire things and you can, but you do have to be careful. You don't want to strip your wires too much. You don't want anything. So it makes me feel a little bit better.
Well, Stacy, you must be pretty good at doing your wiring, because I can tell you, and you would be shocked to see some of the photos that we get from customers' homes where they've done some DIY work, and we like to say it is DIY gone wrong. I mean, it is messed up wiring that could have caused a fire, and it was the homeowner's uncle or their cousin that did the work, not a licensed electrician.
Let's talk about business models. We'll get to your subscription, but first, like bringing up the utilities, I think this might be an interesting thing for utilities to be like, hey, let's do a pilot program. Let's send a bunch of tings out to people. You actually have a deal with insurance firms. They will send tings out. So talk to me about the available sales channels and who's taking them.
Yeah. So, look, and obviously you bought your ting online is what I understand, right? So, and you can buy a ting online, but I mean, quite honestly, that is not our primary distribution channel. We elected specifically not to go direct to consumers. It is available if you want to buy it, but it's at that kind of pricing, it's not something that millions of people are going to buy. We just put it out there so that you could buy it if you wanted it. Our business model is B2B2C. So our business model is to partner primarily with insurance companies that obviously underwrite the risk associated with fire losses and have a vested interest in protecting their customers and their homes and preventing the fires that create these terrible losses. So our primary distribution and our largest customer and partner is State Farm Insurance, the largest insurer in the U.S. State Farm knows that they can give away ting free. It is 100% free to their customers. All a customer has to do is click a button and say, yes, I want one for my home. We ship it. The customer installs it. As you know, it just takes a couple minutes to install. Then ting is preventing fires. And, it just makes sense for insurers to prevent losses, right? I think, there's been a lot of talk over the years in the insurance sector about IoT and prevention. And to be honest with you, almost none of that has worked. I mean, there's been a lot of work done with water sensors. Water losses are actually significantly higher than fire losses for insurance companies, but you've got to put water pucks or whatever all over your house, and then they got batteries, and then they run out, and then, you need a bunch of them, and then it's complicated, and it hasn't really proven to scale. And, we've been able to solve something, a super hard technical problem, make it super simple for the customer. It's a value proposition that customers understand, protecting their families, and we just prevent the losses. And we can charge our insurance partners less money than the savings and the economic value that they get. So it's a very straightforward value proposition.
Walk us through, because there are tons of companies out there who want to participate with InsurTech, right? They want to be the sensors there. What did that process look like in both getting them interested and then having them tested and prove it out? Do you have advice or takeaways for people?
First of all, I think that, there's a lot of interest around this in insurance. I mean, but there's been a lot of scar tissue from the attempts that failed. But I can certainly can't speak for State Farm, but my experience with them is they literally just want to do good for their customers. I mean, if they can protect their customers, that's a good thing for their business, right? It's preventing losses, and they have happier customers, and everybody wins. It's a win-win. But I think that the key for InsurTech is, one, you have to be able to document the loss savings, right? I mean, so and we're doing that in spades. We're doing it every day. Then you have to make it super simple for the customer. I mean, it literally can't be that you have to install 6 or 8 or 10 sensors around your house and put batteries in them and connect them all, and then replace the batteries when the batteries run out. I mean, that just won't work. I mean, the beauty of the solution that we finally came up with is there is no maintenance, right? There's no battery. There's no maintenance. The sensor will last, over 10 years, if not 20 or 30. And you just plug it in. I mean, as long as it's powered and connected to Wi-Fi, then it's going to monitor the house and help protect the family.
So that's getting the insurance companies to buy into it. Let's talk about your business model, because it is very much a subscription-based business model. Talk to me about why y'all went with that.
Well, I mean, I think it is a service that we provide the customer at the end of the day, right? To me, it comes down to, what is the value we're providing to the homeowner? And it is an ongoing service, right? So we are continually adding new features. The grid monitoring aspects of it have expanded considerably over the last year. In our case in particular, and I'll just use you, Stacy, as an example. I mean, if we did detect an electrical fire hazard in your home, hopefully we never do. If we did, we provide a concierge service at that point. So you would actually receive a notification on your app. You would receive an email, a text, and a phone call from one of our fire safety engineers. So we literally have a group of engineers, not customer support people, fire safety engineers that will speak to you. They might ask you a few questions around the data that we're seeing. And if we need to schedule an electrician to come in, to identify and find the problem that we're seeing, the cost of that electrician is covered by the service. You don't pay, so we cover up to $1,000 of the cost of an electrician to come in and fix the problem that Ting has identified in your home. So it is a service that we are providing to the customer. And in almost all cases, not 100%, that $1,000 more than covers the cost of the mitigation.
Is this a business or is this a feature? I always I look at this and I'm like, how big of a business? Where do you go from monitoring for electrical fires after this?
Well, I think it is a business. It is, if you just take about 1 billion dwelling units that this works in globally and multiply it by 50
your service fee?
Something. Yeah, your service fee. Right. I mean, that's, it's tens of billions of dollars just in opportunity if we can scale to every dwelling unit in the globe. Obviously, we're not there yet. We got a long, long way to go. But
yes, you have to outfit for every different type of electricity too.
Yeah. And that's all, but there's no technical risk. It's, that, and the problem is even worse around the world than it is here in the US. I mean, if you think our grid infrastructure is bad, go to, some other countries around the world, and even the home wiring standards are not as good. But we are, from our business standpoint today, we are just trying to stay super focused. We're saying no to almost everybody coming to us saying, can we bring it to this country or that country? And yes, we can, we will, but not now. Can we plug this into commercial and small business and mid-sized business environments because they have fire losses too? The answer is yes, but not now. We are, we've got tremendous growth ahead of us as long as we can continue to execute and protect our families in the U.S. I mean, there's 100 million residential homes in the U.S., right? So, I mean, that's a big market in itself, and we feel a tremendous obligation, to protect the customers. It is every day, right? We are on the line trying to protect our customers.
Awesome. All right. And just so y'all know, I got my Ting first actually I was judging it for a contest for IoT devices. So that's how I did not pay for my Ting originally, but I did just re-up my subscription all on my own because it was valuable. Yeah, this is not an advertisement for Ting, but it is a really interesting device. So thank you so much for coming on the show this week, Bob.
Stacy, it was great to be here, and thanks for all the good work that you're doing on the IoT front.
And that concludes this week's episode of the Internet of Things podcast. Please join us next Thursday and don't forget to subscribe. And if you can't get enough IoT news, I would love for you to sign up at www.stacyoniot.com for our weekly IoT newsletter, where we explain all kinds of things that we don't even get to on the show. Once again, thank you for listening and please subscribe.